Okay, I noticed that I've done a photo P lesson. Actually, did this quite a while ago, but I don't have a Photoshop for baskets. So that's where we're going to get started today, is baskets. So here in the chapter 2, files and images, you can see that I've got Photoshop chapter 2 PDF, and that's the one you want to open is this one here, baskets PSD. Now you notice that this is already a PSD file, so it's already in Photoshop format. I'm just going to go ahead and click on that and download it. Now, when I downloaded it, you can see that it downloaded as a PSD, but I still want to be able to put that in the correct folder. So I'm not just going to go ahead and click on open. I do want to move it to the correct folder. So here I'm looking at my downloads, and I'm just going to come over here, and here is our pictures. And in my pictures folder, I have my Photoshop. So this PC, here are pictures, and you can see that I've got a section here for Photoshop. So if it were yours, I would say simply drag it over here, pictures, where it says move to pictures. Myself, I'm going to go ahead and move that to Photoshop. Okay. And that's, of course, because I've already done this a dozen times. Now, because it is already there and I'm looking for it, baskets. So because it's already here in a Photoshop form, I can just double click on that, and it's going to go ahead and open that in Photoshop for me. So this is where we are right now. And to let you know, I am on page number 80, and the first thing I'm going to use is the Move tool. So I'm going to use my rectangular marquee tool, and I'm going to select this basket right here. You don't want to be too much over it. Make sure you don't cut anything off the basket, but not too much over it. So there we go. And there is, it has been selected. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use the Move tool. And I'm going to grab that and move it. Oh no, what happened? Okay, so I'm going to undo, Control Z. Now, what happened is the default colors here. So if that happened, just go ahead and press the letter D as in Delta on your keyboard. And you saw how that moved them back. This assumes you've already done all of the initial resetting. By initial resetting, Window, Workspace, Reset Essentials, and over here, I'm going to right click, Reset All Tools, okay. So assuming that that's all been done, now you have black over white. I'm using the Move tool. So now I'm going to move this to right about here. Good. Now we're going to go ahead and turn the page. So the next thing we're going to do is duplicate the selection. To do this, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hold the Shift and the Alt key down. Now, you notice this with my left hand, I'm holding the Shift and the Alt key. And you notice it now that the cursor has like a shadow of a cursor under it. So now I'm going to press and hold the left mouse button. I'm holding the Shift and the Alt key with my left hand. I'm holding the left mouse button down with my right hand, and I'm moving the picture straight over like this. Release the mouse button, release the keys. And so you can see there what that did was duplicated the selection here. Now we're going to deselect again, so I'm going to go Control D on my keyboard. I could have come up here to select and selected deselect when it was like that. Either one would have worked. One moment here. And the next tool that we're going to use is the Quick Selection tool, and it's over here underneath the Magic Wand tool. It's like one of those cases of I have no idea which one will show up there, but it's this one right here. It could be either, and when I say it, just because it could look like either one of those. And you see that there, fourth one down. I'm now going to move over to this basket over here. With that circle completely contained, by the way, you can adjust, and we'll be doing this a lot. You can adjust the size of the selection circle with the square bracket keys. The one directly next to the letter P makes it smaller. The one further from the letter P makes it larger. So you can hopefully see where I'm at. I'm going to press and hold the left mouse button down, and I'm just going to move a little bit towards the right. And as I do that, you're going to see that all of a sudden it's going to snap to select the entire basket. So now that I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and press the letter V on my keyboard, as in Victor, to select the Move tool right here. You can see that both things do the same. And I'm going to go ahead and grab this basket and move it to right about here. Now, with that said, we're going to look at two things in the book. First off, this shadow. We want to kind of get rid of some of this shadow here, and they want to make sure you know how to use the history tool. So I'm going to click on the history tool right here. And right here you see the move. So I'm going to click directly above the move in quick selection, and that's going to snap it back. The history tool should be here in your vertical dock. If it is not here, you would click on window, and you'd come over and you would find history tool. History tool right here. And that's going to put, so if it's not in your vertical dock, it will be after you do that. Okay. After moving this back by using the history tool, I'm going to need to use the refine edges in the select tool, the quick selection tool. Now, because I was doing something on my desk, it sort of went away, but now you can see when I went back to the quick selection tool, it's right there. And they want us to use the refine edges button. So I'm going to go ahead and click on refine edges, and I'm going to sort of move that over like this. And here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click here, and I am going to choose on white. And that's just going to get rid of everything except that one basket. Now I'm going to get out of this particular screen, I'm just going to click where there's nothing going on, but I'm still in that box. Okay, now let's go ahead and see where they want us to put these settings. So the radius slider, we're going to set to 20. Now you can use the slider here and try to be really careful, or you can do it like I'm going to do and select and type in 20. Either one of those worked. Okay, these two here, smooth and feather, we're leaving to 0. Contrast, we are changing to 40. And shift edges to 75. And this is just adjusting how much of the edges it selects. So now we're going to click on OK. Now we're coming back to the move tool, and we're now going to move this back in place. And you can see that this time nothing got left. So again, to deselect, I used Control Delta the last time. Now I'm just going to come up here and use select, deselect. Both work just fine. Okay, next to zoom. Okay, they want us to zoom in. What are we zooming in on? We're moving into that one. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and use the zoom tool, and I'm going to press and hold the left mouse button down, and it's going to do that. I'm going to switch to the hand tool, and I'm going to drag over. Okay, that's a bit too big. Okay, you want this basket to be as, stop. You want this basket to be basically, so I'm going the other way now, as big as it can be and still fit on the screen. And that's about as much as I think I'm going to get. So I'm going to leave it like that. And again, I'm going to move to another tool, so if I accidentally do something, I don't mess stuff up. Now, the tool we're going to use here is called the Polygonal Lasso tool. So I'm going to come over here to my Lasso tools, right-click, and select the Polygonal Lasso tool. Now, the way this one works is every time you want to turn, you're going to click. So I'm going to start up here at the top in a big flat area because it's the easiest to work with. And I'm going to click, and I'm going to draw a line. And every time I want it to turn, click, 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 click. And it come down to about here. Click. I see that I messed up there. We're going to see how it looks when I'm done. Click, 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 click. Now you notice that little circle that's appearing when I get near the end. When that circle is visible, that tells you that if you click, it's going to finish the selection. Now, I sort of messed up over here, and you can see that. So I'm going to try something else. I'm going to come over here to select, grow. And what that did was it jumped to those high contrast points. And that is actually in the lesson. It's not just something I made up, just to let you know. And so that was on page number 94. With that done, I'm going to go ahead and do a few more things before I'm finished. But the first thing I'm going to do is zoom out. So, Control 0. The next thing I want to do is I want to pull down a grid line. And so I'm going to come up here so my cursor is inside of the ruler area. I'm going to press and hold the left mouse button down. I am holding the left mouse button down. I'm going to pull this grid line down until it's even with this corner right here on the basket, and I'm going to release the left mouse button. That green line does not show up when we print, so don't worry about the green line being in the way. So now I'm going to come up here and select the Move tool again. And I'm going to move the basket, and notice when I get near that green line, it sort of snaps to there. See how it's just sort of jumping to that? Snap to guide. And that's a really handy tool when you're trying to get everything lined up. So snap to there. Come over to right about here. I'm looking at the picture on page number 98 if you're wondering where I'm at. And about here, I'm going to release the mouse button, and I'm going to deselect by pressing Control Delta. Okay, we're going to now zoom in on this one right here. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the zoom tool, and I'm going to go ahead and zoom in some. Hopefully that's enough. I'm going to come up here, again, trying to make sure I use a lot of the tools here for you. The navigator, and I'm just going to grab that right there and move over to here. And it looks like I zoomed too much, so I'm going to go the other way. Stop. Go the other way. Now I'm going to the left. When I say the other way, I should be a little bit more clear, and I realize that I'm going to the left. Here I'm going to use the hand tool and just get it centered. Okay, I want to close the navigator tool at this point. So we're going to use a different tool this time. This time we're going to use the magnetic lasso tool. So on the magnetic lasso tool, what you're going to do is instead of clicking at every corner, it's going to try and make those adjustments for itself. So I'm at this point, I press down on the left mouse button. Try and follow the edges as best you can, because it's going to do the best job of laying down those markers. And you see what it's doing, is it's laying down those markers for us at each place. Ooh, that's ugly. Well, hopefully Grow will help. It may take more than one try. This one may come out ugly, because my hand is shaking a little bit. I don't know why. So now again, I get near the end, and I see that little circle appear, and when that circle appears, I can release the mouse button, and there we go. Now let's see if Grow is going to fix this for us. Select Grow. Don't really like. That's okay. Okay. Now, the way that Grow is working is it's looking for contrast or differences in color. And so there's a color here and it's white here. The places where Grow is not going to fit well for you is where you have colors that are extremely similar to each other. Just to let you know how that one's going to work. Control 0. So that one there is still selected. I'm turning the page to page number 100 to see where it's supposed to be. I'm pressing V on my keyboard. I could have clicked on the Move tool. And now I'm looking at the picture here on page number 100. I'm going to press and hold the left mouse button down, and I'm going to drag this to right about there. It looks like where it is in the picture on page 100. Release the mouse button. If it's where I like it, I'm going to go ahead and deselect. Control D. As a comment, as we do this, this is not a great way to edit pictures. And in the next chapter, we're going to look at layers. The reason why is because this is destructive editing. If I wanted to move this basket again, it would leave a giant white hole behind it. So we're not putting things laying them down in layers. We're simply drawing on top of each other. And very much like if you were drawing on top of another picture, if you started erasing, you would mess up the picture under it. Now, this right here, you see the shadow left behind. Don't worry about that. We're going to crop it out of the picture. Just so you know, we're going to be doing more stuff later on to get rid of that. Okay, the next tool we're going to use is just the regular lasso tool. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to select the lasso tool. I'm going to come over here. Okay, on this one, don't try to follow too closely because we're going to use a tool. We want a little bit of space. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to draw a nice big selection around this basket right here. And again, when I'm almost to the end, I'm just going to overlap a little bit. This time that little circle does not touch or does not appear. So I got to just basically do it by hand. And then I'm going to release. And now we have a selection around this basket. I'm going to go ahead and select the move tool again so I don't mess stuff up. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Okay, go ahead and come over here. And that's basically what I want to see at this point. I'm going to go back and select the move tool just so I don't mess stuff up again. And we're turning the page. Okay, this time the tool we're going to use is called the Magic Wand tool. So I'm going to come over here. We were using the quick selection tool right here. Right click, Magic Wand tool. Okay, now what I want to make sure you use up here is subtract from selection. So if I float over it just right, this one should say add to selection. Right now, that's not the one we want. We want the one that says subtract from selection. I'm going to click on that, and you'll notice that directly under the Magic Wand tool is a little minus sign. That's letting us know we're subtracting from the selection. Okay, contiguous is important here. What that word contiguous means is basically next to. And so with it checked, it's only going to select color that is under the tip of the magic wand here that is touching other places where you click. So if I click here, it's only going to get rid of the stuff out here. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure you're inside of that selection and click once. And now you notice that selection here is on the outside, but it's not inside the handle here. So I'm going to click there, and I'm going to come here, and I'm going to click there. Now, I'm going to go ahead and do like I've done before, select, grow, and that's going to finish cleaning that up. The grow tool does not work everywhere, and you're not going to use it for every problem. But for this particular chapter, it's a really handy tool. Now I'm going to make sure I select my move tool, and I'm going to zoom out, Control 0. And I'm going to go ahead and turn my page. And I'm on page number 105, where it is showing me where to move the basket to. So I'm going to come over here, press and hold the left mouse button down, and it looks like it's going to go right about there. Release the left mouse button. That looks good. And select, deselect. Okay, the next one we're going to do is these baskets here. What we're going to do with this basket here is we're going to move it, and then we're going to duplicate it. Because of the nature of what we're doing, that it is destructive editing, don't start this step if you don't have time to finish it, okay? Because if you stop in the middle, it's not going to work. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select the elliptical marquee tool, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to, right about here, I'm going to press and hold the left mouse button down, and I'm pulling down diagonally, and you see it putting that large selection around it. Remember, after we make a selection, if it's not where you want it, I am still holding the left mouse button down. Press the space bar. Now you can move the selection. Release the space bar. If it's everything's the way you want it, release the mouse button. Now you're pretty well committed. Okay, at this point, I'm going to go back, and I'm going to select the Magic Wand tool again, subtractive. This time, I'm going to uncheck contiguous. The reason I did that is I want to get all of those little basket areas right there in those little holes. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to deselect that, and then I'm going to click. Now you notice that now all of those little holes have a marquee moving around them too. So they've all been cut out. Again, I'm going to go ahead and use grow. Okay, and they all still have the marquees. Good. Move tool. I go ahead and I'm going to move this down to here, right about there. Before I deselect, do not deselect after you've started this process, okay? Do not. Okay, I see a problem. I don't know if you see it, but look above my basket over and you see a little bit is moving around. See that little spot? So I don't know if you can, and it's kind of hard to show it to you, but it's right there, okay? So I'm going to go back, and very simply, I'm going to redo this. Control D for deselect. I'm going to go ahead again, elliptical marquee tool. Go ahead and select. I'm going to go back to the Magic Wand tool. I'm going to zoom in some before I go any further. Okay, it's just going to make this a little bit easier. Be careful when you're doing this not to click in the image too much because of the way we're using tools. Okay, that's that speck right there. To be honest, I thought that was on my monitor. I didn't realize or remember that it was in the picture. So now I'm going to go back to the magic wand tool. I'm going to make sure that I'm on subtract, and that's there. I make sure contiguous is unchecked, and I'm going to click. Now you see all of those little areas in there are selected. Okay, now, I don't know if I'm going to use grow on this one. I don't think I will. I'm going to use the move tool, move it to right about here, and you can see that in the picture. Release the mouse button, and I'll move just like this using the sliders. Now, what I want to do again is make sure that you're over a solid portion, not over a hole. Don't have the cursor over a hole when you're doing this. Make sure the cursor is over a solid portion. Alt and Shift together again. Press and hold the left mouse button down. Now, because of that snap to grid, this is a bit of a problem, isn't it? Okay, it's not releasing. Okay. Control Z. Okay, I'm going to have to get rid of this guy. Okay. Now, this is not actually in the instructions because normally this guide doesn't produce that bad a problem, but it is. So I'm going to come over here and I'm just going to release the snap to right here. Okay. Or I can go over here to show guides and release it there, one way or the other. But I had to get rid of that guide. Normally that doesn't happen, just to tell you. It's just that it did this time. So now I'm going to go back. We're on move. Again, hold the shift and the alt key together. Press the left mouse button down. Oh, come on. Okay, Control Z. I may stop the video in a minute because this is not usual. Okay, so view. I'm going to get rid of snap. So you saw what I did. That hopefully will do it. I try to leave it on so you can see when things go wrong. Okay, now it's allowing me to pull down at a diagonal at least. It's still sort of locking to that diagonal, but that's okay because I want it right about there. Release the mouse button, release the keys. Now we're not done here. We're still on the move tool. I want you to select show transform controls. Now you see the sizing, the handles around the sides that we used before. Now what you're going to do to keep this from turning into an oblong, okay, come to this one here. The reason we're coming to this one is we want to keep them in that nice diagonal line. Come to this one right here till you see that double-ended arrow. Press and hold the shift key with your left hand. Press and hold the left mouse button down and pull in. The shift key is going to bind the ratio so you see that width and height are moving together. And I'm going to come down to about here. Release the mouse button, release the shift key. Good. Now I'm going to do this again. Hold the alt key, hold the shift key. Okay, we performed a transformation. We need to finish the transformation. The checkbox on mine is here. Yours is probably going to be around here, but I'm going to click on the checkbox. Now that we finished the transformation, Alt and Shift key, double there, hold the left mouse button down, pull down, release the mouse button, release the Alt and Shift key. Hang on a minute. I'm about to cough for a second. Okay, good. Now, on this one here, okay, because I went off the screen and did something else, you notice that I clicked on it directly on the object again to reactivate it. So I've still got transform control shown. I'm going to come to the corner right here, corner sizing handle. I'm going to hold the shift key with my left hand. I'm going to press the left mouse button down, and I'm going to pull in just like that. And that looks about right. Release the mouse button, release the shift key. Okay, those look good. So now I'm going to commit Control D to deselect. Oops. Reason it didn't do it, I forgot to click on the check mark to commit transformation. Enter, now Control D. Control 0. But now, I told you we were going to crop a lot of this picture away once we were done. So we're going to go ahead and select the crop tool. You'll want to select up this time unconstrained. Last time I had you use original ratio. This time I want unconstrained. so that we can just move these. And I'm going to come to the corner here, and I'm just going to pull it in kind of like this. Leave yourself some space on the top here because we're going to do something in a few minutes. And I'm going to do the bottom of the corner right here, and I'm going to pull that in. Make sure you're not overlapping into the picture because it will cut it off. Now, release. You notice there's still some shadow here, but overall I like this, so I'm going to go ahead and click on commit, and I'm going to select another tool, Control 0 again. See this shadow right here, okay? So for this, what we're going to do is this is the first time we're going to use the brush tool. So I'm going to go ahead and select the brush tool, and I want to change these to white over black. So I'm going to press X as in X-ray on my keyboard. I want to make this circle bigger, so I'm going to use the square bracket key that is furthest from the letter P. If you look at the letter P, you're going to see two square bracket keys to the right of it. There's one close to it and one further. I want the one that is further to make this larger. I'm going to move to right about here, and I'm going to carefully paint over that, okay? Nothing else. That's all we're doing with the brush tool so far. Let's go ahead and deselect that tool, okay? So I'm just going to go ahead and press V to select the move tool again, okay? And now we have the move tool again. Want to be careful not to leave it on the brush tool because you don't want to drag it over your picture here because it's going to mess up your picture. Okay, so the final thing we're going to do is add our name. So we're going to add our name in a special way because I want you to learn a little bit about using the eyedropper tool for picking the color. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select the horizontal type tool. Okay. I selected the horizontal type tool. One moment. Okay, literally it was a case of my computer just being ridiculously slow. Okay, I'm going to come up here and choose a font style that I like. Set the font family. And these over here are our samples, okay? So I think I'm going to go with this one here, Trebuchet, okay? Now I'm going to go ahead and try 24-point font and see how it looks. If I think it's ugly, I can always come back and change it later, okay? So I'm going to come to right about here, press and hold the left mouse button down, and I'm going to go ahead and draw a nice big bounding box. And you can see where it is right there blinking. To be honest, I wanted it a bit bigger than that. I can see the cursor. I can see that the bottom of the cursor is here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to choose a slightly larger font. 48. How's that? Yeah, 48 is good. And of course, I'll put in my name. Okay. Before I put in my name, though, hopefully you haven't started typing, I want to select a color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to the color box and click on that. I'm going to leave that box. Now you notice that it's the eyedropper tool. I'm going to move my eyedropper over some nice medium tan. I'm calling this here dark tan, the very light over here light tan, and the little boxes in there medium tan. There we go. And I like that color. I'm going to click on OK, and I'm going to type my name. No, I don't like that font as much as I thought I did. So I'm going to go see where I'm at right here with my cursor. I'm going to press and hold the left mouse button down, drag it over it, and I'm going to go ahead and try to find another font that I think I'm going to like. Sure, I'll go with that one. Yeah, I like that one better. Okay, now that I've done that, I'm going to very carefully click at the end of my name. Okay, so I'm not quite done here. Actually, I feel like I am. I think I want to make that a little bit bigger. This new font just looks thin. So I'm also going to go ahead and select that. I wonder if there's not a bold option for that font. What if I come over here and see if I can choose a faux bold, okay? That's going to make that a little bit different. Where I went was the character editor box, okay? Right over here, and did that and went to character right there, and I selected that first one. If you float over them, you're going to see like faux bold, faux italic, all caps. These are your controls. Faux means false, by the way, because this font doesn't really have a bold version, so it's simulating it. Now to close that, I'm just going to go over here to my vertical dock, and I'm going to close that right there. Good. Now that I'm done typing that, I've done all that, I'm going to go ahead and click on Commit to Current Edits. Now, we're not quite done. One more thing. We're going to add a stroke to our text. The color I want the stroke for our text to be, I'm just going to tell you, is some nice shiny bronze over here, okay? So we're going to come down here to the Add Layer Style button, the FX down on the bottom. I'm going to click on that. Select Stroke. Wait for my computer to catch up. Good. I've just got too much stuff open. And then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to select Color. And I want to leave that entirely. And you see how it turned into that eyedropper. And I'm going to go ahead and click on this. And I kind of like that. That's nice. Yeah, it looks good. Okay. And so you can sort of see what you're doing if you've got everything positioned correctly. Okay. And okay, as I think 3 came out just fine. We'll be somewhere between 1 and 5. And go ahead and click on OK. Now, we're almost done. Yeah, normally you don't see that. It's only did it because, of course, it's, the amount of stuff I got open that you can see. We're going to go ahead and save. Control S, as in Control Sierra. Ignore that. Remember, you can check Don't Show Again. I leave it so students can see it show up. And there it says saving, and in a few moments it will be done saving. Good. I've just got too much open. Now I'm going to go ahead and resize this image. Image size. Okay, students are still having trouble with this. Do not change these ones. Change down here. Change the width to 6. And click on OK. And again, you can go Control 0 if you care to. Nice. Okay, save again. File. This time we're going to save as. Now, what are we going to do different this time? We're going to save it as a JPEG. Photoshop. Come down here. We're going to pick that top JPEG option. Click. Save. Leave it like this. We talked about that in class. Okay. And it's done. At this point, you're ready to turn this in.